and I, we are here. We are later than everyone else in the entire world because Ryan and I have responsibilities and have to work. But Ryan and I are finally getting ready to watch the Nintendo's E3 hypothetical direct.
June 2024.
Yes, June 18th, 2024. We don't know anything. We know that our friends have been hyped about some stuff, but we have no idea what that is. We have no idea if it's a good direct or if there's only one or two good announcements and the rest sucks. Who knows? But we are getting ready to watch. We wanted to just do a quick fire. What do you think is in this direct, Ryan? What are you hoping? And what do you expect? Go ahead, you start.
Yeah, I've got zero expectations, but I'm always hoping for that Ice Climber. I would love a port of, or a remaster or something of Dragon Quest IX. That would be great. And of course, like all the Metroid, non-stop Metroid. That'd be great. I'd like to see an amiibo of some sort. I don't even care if it's an old amiibo. Like, I want to see some more amiibo, like showing that they're doing stuff with that. I hope to hear mention of a new console, even if it's just like Nintendo systems, like not necessarily just specifically Switch, but just, more confirmation that it's coming, even though they said they weren't really going to talk about the successor. Mm-hmm. I'd like to be like, here's some games that are coming to both, or future systems or something. That's kind of my expectations there, or my hopes.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I definitely, I hope to see some kind of Star Fox. I hope to see some kind of Metroid, and I hope to see some kind of Donkey Kong. Those are my hopes. I expect to see no Mario. I really don't expect to see Zelda. Maybe we'll see the ports of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I could see that. Outside of that, I don't think we'll get any. I'm not expecting those. I expect a lot of the B team to show up today and be almost A team of characters. And personally, I think we are going to see Metroid Prime 4. I think we'll get Shadow Drop of Prime 2. HD remastered, but I think for sure Prime 4. We're going to find out how wrong I am in about 40 minutes. But I think it's going to be Prime 4.
That game doesn't exist.
Yeah. I think we'll see it. I don't think we'll have a release date. It's definitely going to be confirmed for next year. And they're not going to say it's for Switch 2, but it will be for Switch 2 and Switch, because they don't want to release the date for a Switch 2 release yet. So that's what I think. So who knows? Like I said, our buddies have led on that there's some great stuff. So we're going to dive in, and we'll be back to record our thoughts afterwards. Luigi. Hey!
Donkey Kong. What?
Returns.
Okay.
Donkey Kong Country Returns, originally released on the Wii system, is barreling onto Nintendo Switch in HD. The villainous Tiki Tak tribe has hypnotized the local wildlife.
Hey, that means they're out of ideas, or they're out of remakes.
I mean, they could remake the original trilogy. That'd be amazing.
That would be pretty cool, yeah. But from here on out, it's either going to be new content or a remake of the trilogy, which is when it
comes in for something big. Zelda. I was wrong.
Okay, A Link Between Worlds?
Oh my gosh.
Is it?
The cute little chibi.
It's definitely got that Link's Awakening logo, like.
Next will be our last announcement. Please take a look.
Big one.
Fire Emblem.
Dude, I'd be so mad. It's Prime.
That's definitely Prime. Galactic Federation.
first look at
Finally.
Metroid Prime 4 Beyond.
All right, so Ryan and I are back, and we're playing with Power. We just watched the Direct. Finally, it is done, and man, Ryan, may I say I was wrong and I was right a lot of my predictions, as you guys probably heard at the top of this show. With that said, Ryan, I just have to say, I have to highlight that you realize this is how we did it when the podcast first was born. You remember this? We used to always have our parties for E3 with all the guys, the NOS crew, or whatnot. And it wasn't the last time we did this. It's just Ryan and I, because Nintendo, E3's dead, and Nintendo takes their sweet time at telling everybody, and literally announced it the day before today. But yeah, I mean, the last time it was just Ryan and I, it was Breath of the Wild was the only game being shown off at E3. You remember that? There was no Switch talk. Everyone was wanting the NX to be shown, but there's nothing. Just Breath of the Wild, showing it off, and then everyone was amazed and talked about it. But, man, it's been a long time since then, huh?
Yeah, it's been a couple minutes.
But let's dive in. Let's dissect this Direct. We don't have to talk about every game, but definitely the games that we're excited about. We obviously saw some JRPGs. A lot of those. We did see some even mergers of a farming simulator game and a JRPG kind of style of game together. I don't remember half of those games that were announced. But there are some key games that I'm stoked about, and I'm sure you are too. So you have the list, so why don't you go ahead and dive in, and we can start talking one by one about our thoughts about some of these key games.
Yeah. First, let's just kick off with the show starter with the Mario and Luigi Brothership. First off, the name was pretty good. I liked that it was ship based, like it's seafaring, water based. So Brothership really fit. I like the pun there, wordplay, if you will. But it looks interesting. Like the cell shaded, very expressive style. Definitely invokes that Mario Wonder, but also keeps it in its own like Mario and Luigi style. So I think they did a really good job, but keeping that expression going. I think they did a lot of I guess a lot of good service to it, to make sure that they kept this going with their new direction with Mario, and it looks great. Honestly, it didn't look like an older game. It looked like brand new, shiny. I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm curious to see how much it keeps of its RPG roots, just overall, and kind of see, because I saw it's still, Mario and Luigi stuff has platforming and what have you, but I'm kind of curious to see how much of a departure it is from the original formula, and how much it takes on its own thing and kind of becomes its own entity outside of an RPG, focus thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock. I did not expect a Mario and Luigi game. I thought maybe it was a remake at first, because we've been seeing so many remakes. That was not the case. It was a brand new game with a newer, unique art style. I liked they showed a kind of a Mario Strikers reference in there as well too, with the shell. I thought that was really cool. The game looks fun. It looks fun. It looks exciting. It looks fresh and new. So it's a game that I'm fair to say I will get. I'm excited to play this one.
I hope they give the humor justice that this series has.
Yes.
Next one is a Nintendo World Championships NES edition. We kind of knew it was coming. It had been announced. I think it had actually been leaked, and then so Nintendo just went ahead and announced it formally. But they talked about their collector's edition and everything. But it was just that was our first sight of Ice Climber and Metroid in the Direct, so that was really exciting.
Yeah, this game, we knew about this months ago now, so nothing exciting there. Honestly, I don't really feel like it needed to be in the Direct. It's a game that is not... Initially, I'm like, yeah, this is not something I care about, but I do think it would be fun to have it parties, and especially when the NOS crew, when all of us hang out, that'll be really cool to have. So I'll probably pick it up then.
Next on this list, we have Fairy Tail 2. We don't probably have too much to say about it because we didn't know that, or I don't think Jacob knew that it was an anime or manga, or was a thing. And for me, like, I always see the symbol on people's car and think, oh, that's a chocobo. No, it's not. It's a Fairy Tail reference, but I have not got into the series, although I've heard it's really good. But this is Fairy Tail 2. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a continuation of the story. If this story is actually just like a game based on like a second manga or like sequel, like kind of like Dragon Ball Z is a sequel to Dragon Ball. I don't really know anything enough about that to speak on it. So moving on, the Fantasian Neo Dimension. Fantasian is kind of that Final Fantasy vibe, like the turn-based JRPG. It's kind of like an offshoot of like the classic Final Fantasies, I would say, but it's still giving it that kind of, I don't know. It looks like one of the characters in there kind of looks like they'd fit right in with like Nier Automata, like 2B and things like that. So like it's got that flair to it, that art style, but also has kind of like some turn-based RPG elements with like arcing of attacks, and you choose the path that those attacks take and things. So very curious to see how that shakes out ultimately.
I'll pass. I'm good.
Surprising to see that they're adding another sport to Nintendo Switch Sports. It's kind of out of nowhere. I don't know if it's quite as shocking as seeing like them announce new content for Animal Crossing 3DS, like they did before, like out of the blue. But it's still it's kind of shocking to see that they have some more. I almost feel like maybe they had announced that they were going to be doing other games, and so they're just doing this because they said they were going to. But it's nice to see that they have like this basketball theme with the dribbling and the shooting and stuff. It's nice. It's nice to see that they have that on there. So do you have any thoughts on that one?
No, I never even got the game. So, I mean, I think it's just this one was it's a typical announcement for Nintendo to fill out the year. So, I mean, the Switch 2 is on the horizon, and this year this is the kind of announcement I would expect from this Direct. This announcement fits right in with like, hey, let's help fill out the year, give a little bit more content to what's already out there for owners. I don't really feel like that's an incentive to go buy the game now. I feel like it's for people. They know how many people are playing the game, and I think it's an incentive for them to keep playing. I know I would like to just comment that like this Direct did almost exactly way more than I think anyone ever thought they would. This Direct was to fill out the rest of the year, which they did, but they gave us. I was expecting more ports and whatnot, or remakes, and we're getting a lot more than that.
Yeah. It's interesting. The stuff that they've really been leaning hard into in the Switch's lifespan was not really talked about too much, which is good. And they brought in these other series that they hadn't been really touching on, or bringing some old, some DLC to some games that have maybe lost a bit of its luster. So it's cool to see that they're bringing these games that haven't been touched on. Still no Nintendogs yet, but we'll probably see that on the next Nintendo console. But it'll be cool to see when that comes around. So I guess the next game that we go into is a Metroidvania-style game. As it appeared, it was called Mio, or Memories in Orbit.
Yeah, it looked... I got Little Nightmares and Metroid vibes. The giant brains and the one-eye robots. I definitely got Metroid vibes. I liked the gameplay a lot. It looked cool.
I kind of got a just this art style with the watercolor and stuff. It kind of reminded me of like the cell shading feel of Twilight Princess with the what are they called? The enemies.
The Twily?
But not the people themselves, but the enemies that you fought.
I know what you're talking about, like the dark guys with like long dreads.
Yeah, and even then, like sometimes I kind of got like an Ing feel as well from Metroid.
Yeah.
Just the hair and everything. So it definitely invoked those kind of feelings that kind of make me think that it is going to be a Metroidvania style. I'm definitely going to keep that one on my radar. Then seemingly randomly. I don't know if Disney fans were plugged in or not, but Disney Illusion Island got an announcement of basically expansion that was free coming out today. So they shadow dropped new content for Illusion Island.
Yep.
So, if you like Mickey and that new game, I believe it's just like a platformer, but it doesn't have any combat in it. You use the environment to cause things to happen with attacks and things like that. So you're not actually directly attacking, and more like, dodging and stuff, and then timing to where like rocks fall on the enemy or something like that, I guess really we can move on into the next one, which was the Hello Kitty Island Adventure. This is totally my spouse's type of game. Sanrio is a big thing for Draco, so definitely it's kind of like an Animal Crossing meets Hello Kitty. So definitely, it's not the first. I mean, not to say that Hello Kitty hasn't made its way to Animal Crossing. I know those amiibo cards for the Sanrio collection, but
true.
Yeah, it kind of gave me that vibe. Also, the fact that it was a timed exclusive was kind of nice too, to know that it's coming to Switch first, and that just makes sense for what it is,
Now this is the reason. This is the hype of the Direct right here. What is it? Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. This is the game that we've all been asking for. Remember back in the Super Nintendo days, we used to get Looney Tune games all the time. It's about time we got a Looney Tune game, Ryan. It's been about 2 decades or so since we've had one. So, no, I really don't care about this game at all, but it was interesting. Space Jam vibes, for sure, with the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I would think it would be a lost cause, missed opportunity if there was no Michael Jordan DLC for this game. And the Toon Squad. Is it the Toon Squad?
Yeah.
The Toon Squad needs to be in there.
Definitely would like.
Yeah.
Sure, you can throw LeBron James in there too. I mean, yeah, but Jordan's got to be on there.
It's Jordan.
And the aliens, that would be great.
Yes, that would be great.
We also got some announcements on Among Us with some new rules and things. It's basically the equivalent of like playing like Mafia or Werewolf, or I think they call it like Secret Hitler or something like that. But just adding in new roles and things. So making that game kind of evergreen in some ways. Giving you more to do, and then there was a Farmagia or Farmagia.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
So it's monster growing. It's like Pikmin style.
Like a farming simulator, but you grow monsters and you can fight with them. Kind of gave me some Monster Rancher vibes.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Like, and the art style, I don't know, it kind of reminds me a bit of kind of that Dragon Quest feel. Mm-hmm. Some of the characters, definitely not the same artist or anything, but it definitely gave me those vibes. And then, bam, right in our view was Kong. And, we see Donkey Kong busting out of his shack. And and we know that this is a return of Donkey Kong Returns HD. This is the fourth time it's been ported to something.
It's the third
time. Okay, I wasn't sure if it came to Wii U or not, but
no, it did not. Not unless I'm wrong, but I do not believe it did.
But yeah, we had a DS port. 3DS port. We had it was on the Wii originally.
Yep.
And then now we're having it coming to the Switch, so it's cool. I think they're out of remakes, HD remakes, unless they revisit the original trilogy, or move on into a true new successor.
Yeah.
And there's always that chance that they HD remake Diddy Kong Racing, which we would not be sad about.
My goodness. You know what? I tell you what. I mean, I got to talk about it because, I'm wearing a Donkey Kong Country shirt for this Direct, and it's just like, everyone knows that's my favorite franchise. I love Donkey Kong Country. In Donkey Kong Country's Returns is a fun game. It's got great puzzles. It's got great platforming. It definitely lacked in the music department. It wasn't as good as like what Tropical Freeze. They didn't have David Wise back for this one. So this is was done by someone else, just different versions of Kong songs, whatever. I thought it looked a little rough. It didn't put it next up to Tropical Freeze. I think it looks very very rough for it to be an HD game. Let's just look at Donkey Kong's fur. Look at the texture of his fur in this game versus Tropical Freeze. And I know Tropical Freeze was a Wii U port, which is a way better technology than the Wii version, but
Yeah.
it doesn't look as visually great to me. And I mean, I'll be honest, like, it's the Tiki Tribe, and I think that's I think the Tiki Tribes are the lamest villains in all of Donkey Kong Country games. And I'm a big Kremlin lover. I really want a pipe dream for me is I really want the original trilogy remade. I mean, I think that would look gorgeous, made with modern graphics, the original games,
Like
and
doing
then-
an HD, 2D.
yeah,
you know,
HD 2D HD of Country 1, 2, and 3, and just redo the music. I think that would be phenomenal. I think that's what I personally want kids to play, because I want them to know the history of Donkey Kong Country, not just the two latest versions of the series, because those I think are the best, those older ones. But no, I mean, obviously the new ones are great, but yeah. So I had a lot of thoughts on this one. I'm glad it's there. We'll never turn away Donkey Kong. It's just not necessarily what I want from Donkey Kong, but like you said, what else are they going to port now? So it's either go back there or make a new one.
I would be remiss if I didn't at least say they could have done an HD remake of Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
That would have been. I guess you could throw that in there in the mix. We're more likely to get that in an NSO, but I do agree. It did look like an easy win for them. What they showed off was just the Wii version, a little bit more polished, like 3DS. A little bit more polished. Like they updated the models. They didn't do a whole lot to it. To make it into the HD space. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more polish put on it before it comes out in January.
Yeah, it comes out early next year, which
January
I thought was
16th.
interesting.
Which is it's kind of a good place to put it. That's the January game for Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then whatever they do in February, and then hopefully by March we'll have a new system in our hands.
That's what I hope. That's the hope. But I will say one last thing: seeing that it getting port, we already had. I like it. It just gives me a good hope that we're going to get other games that were ported to 3DS ported over in HD, because I think it was. I think some of the games like Yoshi's Woolly World. I know Kyle and I both really loved that game, and that's a game I would love to play on Switch. Mm-hmm. And I think there was kind of a fear of if they've already ported it once to 3DS, they're not going to port it again. Which this just shows that they will. They just ported. This game, so I have hope that we'll get some other 3DS games ported over to Switch and Switch 2 for the future.
Yeah, I could see that. Next one is something that kind of tickled my fancy with Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake, and then they tacked on at the end that 1 and 2 HD remakes were also coming, but that the spokesperson for the series made it very clear that 3 is the prequel, is the first in the series, and recommends that we play 3 first, and so that's what's coming out first, and then later that year, or later, I guess it would be the next year, because this is coming out in November, and next year, 2025, we're going to get 1 and 2 HD, to experience the full story for, I think it's Erdrick. I always say Erdrick, but I guess it's Erdrick, yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. It's a really, really pretty Dragon Quest.
Yeah, it looks pretty, but I won't play it.
I am curious. Again, peak for me was Dragon Quest IX because of the versatility and being able to choose classes and revocate and all of that stuff, and the humor was spot on. Even though it didn't have the greatest, longest winding story, and the characters weren't as charming because they were all kind of create your own. And it allowed a multiplayer aspect, so you could, team up with friends who customize their own characters. So you didn't have that bond with the different characters like you would in Dragon Quest XI, where you had, characters that you could really get into their backstory that wasn't really in 9. So maybe I will lean into 3 when I'm wanting to get a really good story going and figure out. And I never really went back and saw the history of this series, so I might do that. just to know where this game franchise came from, what its heritage is, what its original story was about. And it's interesting that they called it Dragon Quest. They didn't call it Dragon Warrior.
Yeah.
So that's I guess that's official now. It's going to be Dragon Quest from now on for everything. But so now we're going to move on to a whole lot of what the heck, Funko Fusion.
Funko Pop Fusion.
It's basically I don't know. It looks kind of like a Lego game or like a Skylanders, but without the actual like toys to life.
Yeah, you're just Funko Pop.
Funko Pop's doing Funko Pop things, and it's across all different kinds of Funko Pop licenses.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I hope the Blink-182 Funko Pops are in there. That's the only thing I would be happy about.
There's Umbrella Academy alongside like He-Man and Jurassic Park and Five Nights at Freddy's and Back to the Future and all these just a bunch of like 60 different like characters all mashed up, and there's endless potential for DLC for this game, like new characters and things. So be kind of curious to see how they do that, if they have a lot of unlockable type characters, and then just see what Funko has to offer. I know Funko's really branched out a lot into board games and things like that, and so the video game space is not surprising in any form or fashion. Does still feel like kind of a cash grab for that company, but we'll see if they give it, make it into a good video game. We'll see.
Yeah, if Blink is a playable option, I'll get the game.
Are we talking the clothed versions or the not so clothed versions?
They weren't clothed in the Funko Pop. They just had the instruments in front of them.
That's funny.
So what's my age again version? So.
Just a bunch of Funko butts running around.
Pretty much.
Okay, moving on into something a little bit more scary. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. So we knew this is coming. It didn't necessarily need to be in the direct, but also it needed to be announced. Just say, hey, it's coming. To those people who don't ever tune in except for the big announcement, that's what that's there for. I gotta say though, cool that they showed that off. It's definitely not a game that we're gonna be picking up probably, unless like, I don't know, someone in our family really wants it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next announcement really got me excited. Like this is probably my number one announcement of the direct, for things that I didn't know existed or was coming. Completely caught me by surprise, and a pleasant surprise at that. Was the new Denpa Men announced. So the new Denpa Men, I absolutely love Denpa Men back on the 3DS. And it was just basically like you used your 3DS's like local wireless street pass or whatever, and it would pick up on signals, like radio signals and things. So like, radio waves being sent out by phones and different devices and things. Like it would have different kind of Denpa Men, different shapes and colors and sizes, different abilities, and you could like capture them, kind of like a la Pokemon, but they just kind of float around in the air, kind of like dust motes, if you will. And you could like turn your camera around and capture them, and then you actually just play like a classic JRPG style game. It's not like super amazing or groundbreaking story, though it does have cool story. It just lets you play through this RPG, and it was surprisingly in depth for an RPG at that. So they put a lot of care and time into it, and so like when I purchased as much as I could on the 3DS before the 3DS shop closed, and so I was just like, okay, Denpa Men, we're never going to see this again, so like just enjoy it for what I have on my 3DS. So when they announced this, I was caught completely off guard, and I was so excited about it. Definitely the biggest surprise of the show for me, at least overall. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Jacob, what did you think about it?
No, I had no idea what it was. I just happy that you were celebrating something you loved. I had no clue what it was. I'm like, all right, whatever, buddy. Definitely reminded me of Animal Crossing, but it's not something I will get.
Yeah, their colors often indicate their like elemental type that they have and the things that they do. So there's tons of combinations. Some people have multiple colors, so they'll have multiple like elemental attacks and things that they can do. So. But yeah, and also the symbols on their head have meanings as well for different things that they can do, healing and double attacks and what have you.
Okay.
So, all right. Next thing they announced was a Metal Slug Attack Reloaded.
Yeah, don't really care. Glad it's there, but
yeah,
that's about it.
It was a shadow drop. That's the biggest thing. I have no I have no stake in the franchise for Metal Slug. Like, I've played it at an arcade here or there, but like, okay, I'm shooting a bunch of stuff. Okay, like, cool. I'd prefer, a ship-based like Gradius or like Ikaruga or something like that over like being on the ground and shooting a bunch of stuff, like just shoot 'em ups like that. But still, I know a lot of people like that. A lot of people like the challenge. It's that arcade feel, like going. I remember playing it on different like multi-arcade machines. They had a bunch of different games on it. Metal Slug was right up there, and you could play that with friends. Definitely classic arcade feel, and I like that they're keeping that going for fans. And the Shadow Drop was pretty awesome as well. The next one is Darkest Dungeon 2. I've heard Darkest Dungeon is a phenomenal game. I've seen a lot of fan art and stuff, people drawing like their own selves in that art style, because it's like very shadow-faced and like dark and just really kind of dreary look. But gothic, I think, is the word that they use for that. But it's a role-playing roguelike game. But it's getting a sequel coming out in July. So I'm really happy for those people that really love that type of game. It looks, it's got a dark, broody feeling to it that I think goes really well. It's just gritty, really gritty. I think of like Arkham Batman type stuff when I see that, but in it kind of even a more dark saturation type feel. Following that, we've got the NSO announcement, which was pretty cool. The second Metroid announcement of the day. Well, I'm counting the NES,
Gotcha.
mix or what have you, the championship. But yeah, they kicked it off with Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, the Game Boy Advance game, plus the Four Swords. So you can actually play the Four Swords with randomized dungeons. Play that game mode. I think that's pretty cool. Because that was something that's always been kind of locked behind. You'd have to have the link cables and stuff to play that. Right. They did release a Four Swords experience on the DSi, I want to say, or like DS. It was like a free thing that they released that lets you kind of have that Four Swords experience. But this is the true way. You don't have to use the link cables this time. You can play online with friends. For those who have the expansion, is it pass or expansion pack? Yeah.
Yep.
So.
They announced a new tier. I want to say new tier, but they announced something new for the expansion pass, or the NSO Plus, whatever you call it. I don't know.
It was like 17 plus or something.
Yeah, they added a rated M column, which was I'm just very curious on how Nintendo would ever approach that, because it's kind of like Disney having like rated R films now from like Fox Studios.
Like, where do you put those?
Right, because most of the time they're not known for that, and it's cool. They have Turok, which is cool. I remember playing that a lot as a kid. I mean, I actually own it because before this was a thing, you can buy it physically on Switch, so that's a little weird. But I already own it, but I guess you can play NSO now. And then they got Perfect Dark, which is basically GoldenEye 2, which is cool. We know Josh Taylor, a NOS crew member, will be happy. That's his GoldenEye. He played that one to death. Loved that one. And I want to go back and play. I only played a little bit of it on the 64. So I intend to go back and play that game and beat it. So that'll be fun to do. And smart of Microsoft to allow that to happen with their new Perfect Dark game just getting announced a week or two ago.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. That's cool.
Yeah, they announced a new one.
Cool.
So I think that's smart on their end to do that.
Yeah.
And then
Metroid Zero Mission
It
was due. People have been waiting for it. They're Metroid fans. They're like, why isn't that on the system yet? Well, here it is. It's coming.
And it's probably...
That's today, I believe.
Yeah, they all came out today. I thought the NSO was very strong. Obviously, I'm still holding out for... I want freaking Diddy Kong Racing. That's like it was Banjo-Kazooie and Diddy Kong Racing were my top NSO 64 games. And I still need that one. And I would love to see Banjo-Kazooie. And now I think Conker's Bad Fur Day will come. But I'm adding that category. I used to not think that would happen because of it, but... Yeah, if they're going to put it in a separate category that may have parental blocks on it for the parent side of things, that's pretty cool. That I mean, I never played Conquer. I had watched a friend, but I would like to go try it out. Now that I'm an adult and don't have to get in trouble by a parent or anything, I could check it out myself now.
I think Diddy Kong Racing, of course, and then I think Bomberman 64 and Bomberman Heroes, the second, I think is what it was called, the second one. Are technically there was a Bomberman 64 2 or something like that too. But I'd like to see those come to the console eventually. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really was hoping for, I think, overall, to come to the system. So I'm really glad that's, we're seeing more N64, especially rare stuff coming through. So next thing is Phantom Brave, The Lost Hero. I don't remember much about it other than they did highlight the name Marona. And I remember they were talking about some kind of like fusions with characters. I just don't know much about that game. But yeah, Phantom Brave, The Lost Hero is the name of the game. It's super kawaii, cute, and coming to Switch in 2025. Probably a Draco game for sure. So the next thing, Tom's number one highlight, I bet anyone, is the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. Yes, that's cool. right up Tom's alley. I was like, I didn't get into the hype of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and so I was like, I'm going to get into Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and I was burnt by that because they released the better version a few months later.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed by that. So, like, I was really ready to get into the series then, and I didn't get into 2 at the time. So I probably would have hit me a lot more had I gotten into 2. Back in the day, I did play the arcade quite a bit, and I thought it was really cool to have those crossovers. But by the time that I started showing interest in it, it was already, like, had its big meta, and, like, you had to play certain characters to be the best, and, like, it wasn't really just like you could just play these characters because you wanted to have fun. It was all serious by the people that I was around on the arcade machines. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm really glad people are getting that.
I think it might be something that my son really wants to get because he loves fighting games. That's what he always.
Punisher was on there.
He always goes to the fighting games on like the NSO stuff or Super Nintendo and whatnot, and he loves Spider-Man superheroes. So him seeing that, I'll show it to him. Maybe something I get for him and play through him, but. The fact that the X-Men and stuff are on there, that is my draw. I really don't care about Street Fighter, but it's the superhero side is what would make me get it.
Now we just need Tekken to come to Switch, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Where's Tekken? Like, collection something. Anything. All right, the next one was a pleasant surprise. Super Mario Party. It's got that same style as the Super Mario Party that released on Switch before. It's got the super and the colors and the white Mario Party logo, but then they added Jamboree to the bottom, and it's supposed to be their biggest Mario Party yet. Now, I know in the past few titles, they're like, this is the biggest one yet. This is the biggest one yet. Okay, cool. So there's more mini games. Okay, there's maybe a couple more boards. Sure, the last couple ones had maybe 4 boards or 5 boards or something like. Not quite enough there. We were expecting DLC that never came, so they were just saving it all for this version here. This is kind of the swan song from Super Mario Party. We've got 3 entries on the system, I believe. Is that right? Or is there 4? There's 3?
It's the third.
Okay. So, yeah, there's...
This is kind of like a fusion of the two, This is original ideas, and, I mean, it kind of... It gave you Wii Sport Resorts vibes, too, because it's on a big resort.
Some motion stuff, you've got...
A lot of online
classic
play.
Boards, online play. They had a 20-player Battle Royale style Mario Party,
and then they have more classic boards that, to be fair, should have come as DLC in the last Mario Party, but they saved that, and maybe they're just doing that to make things more enticing and appealing. As like, oh, hey, I remember that board as a kid, and it's mixed in there now with the new stuff. So I don't know if I will get it. I may. My daughter especially, Riley, loves Mario Party, so. We'll see, but it's not something I'm against. But, Mario Party is Mario Party. You got to have people to play with it, and it's fun, but it's also can be a headache for little kids when people cry because they lost. But, well, what was next up on the list here?
I believe my page refreshed, and they changed the order of things. But so we have The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah.
The first time you get to play as Zelda in a dedicated game.
People finally get their wish.
Awesome. Yes, I love the style. I absolutely adore the Link's Awakening chibi toy-like style. And so the fact that this is, continuing in that vein is just beautiful. I'm glad that I'm glad that we're getting this first entry in that feeling for a Zelda game. It's not like super graphically heavy, so they're not dumping a bunch of I guess, development time and making a Breath of the Wild experience just for a Zelda like game, and they're kind of piloting the waters. They're not making a big, huge push for it, but still giving us content and a really cool, like, you know, top-down 2.5D feel, which is great. And leaning into the wisdom instead of the courage, so you're less sword and more magic based, and creating things to solve puzzles and attack enemies, and it's definitely really cool. Definitely giving you that vibe that, you know, Zelda summons the suit of armor or whatever, and like other versions, and so like we're getting those feelings of how different Zelda can be, and it is a bit of a risk on Nintendo's part, you know, to give a different formula, but also set it in the Zelda world. And I think that what they've shown us is proven that this is going to succeed. It's definitely going to be a cult classic, if not something that might, you know, become future content that's just exclusively exploring Zelda stuff, or maybe a hybrid of the two with Link and Zelda playing together, or perhaps even two players, you know, Zelda and Link playing side by side. That would be pretty awesome.
It's looks great. I mean, I definitely will get it. I will get it. And I think this is a great experimental thing. A lot of people have, for the past 14 years, since Breath of the Wild. Remember when we talked about Breath of the Wild being the last time we hung out together?
That was the biggest time.
I remember a lot of speculation was people were hoping you were going to play as Zelda. They wanted an adventure about Zelda. Now, it may be a letdown to somebody, like, because this is not your full-on mainline Zelda game. This is it's a main story because all the Zelda stories fit in the timeline, but it's a cheaper version of Zelda. It's not going to be it's like Final Fantasy. You have your mainline Final Fantasies and have these side Final Fantasy games. That's what this is, a side Zelda game. And I think it's a baby step to getting people into really having Zelda as like a full-on 3D open world type of game. With her as the main character, but I think it's cool. I think it's a great way. I think it's going to be enticing for girls as well too, like my daughters, to play as a Zelda, as a princess the whole time. That's 2 princess games now, Ryan, that we've had where they're the lead characters and they're not just the damsels in distress, and you have to rely on them. So that's really cool. And then obviously something you're giddy about. I'm sure you'll waste your money on. What is this that you're looking at here?
The Nintendo Switch Lite Hyrule Edition. It is a beautiful gold Switch Lite with all of the trimmings of the Triforce with the wingspan of the shield look. And they've got the little Triforce underneath the right analog stick, or analog stick, and just so pretty. It's got that beautiful gold. Like, I always wanted to get the gold Joy-Con, or sorry, not Joy-Con, the gold Wiimote and the gold nunchuck and the gold, Pro controller or whatever they called it at the time.
3DSs.
This is a continuation of the gold line, and it's toward the end of the life. It's kind of that Metroid end of the 3DS, Metroid system that they did, and then also the Majora's Mask gold 3DS like XL.
Good push.
It's that last push to sell the systems and get that Switch count over the beat the PlayStation 2. To be the ultimate selling console of all time.
It's totally going to do that.
I think it's going to push it over the edge with a lot of these titles. So, I'm really excited to see that.
We can skip this one.
And then, obligatory Just Dance. It's cool that they have different choreograph modes based on the difficulty.
That's what it needs to say. Just die.
They definitely needed to have different choreograph, different dances for different difficulties.
My
instead
daughter
of just stripping
actually
stuff
might
out.
love this. She's been getting into dance.
I know, personally, we're not going to be playing in our house.
No.
And not to say that we wouldn't enjoy it. It's just, Draco's unable to do that anymore with the health.
And it's like a weird, online subscription now, right? It's
not... you have to you can do the subscription. You get songs that you can dance to, and you can you can just keep downloading and buying new songs and buying the new music pack and new dances and stuff.
I'm good.
But it's limited, and once they close that down, then perhaps it'll be available in future ones, but you're not guaranteed that. So
yeah, no way.
Next one on the list is a PlayStation game showing up in a Nintendo Direct. What?
That's wild.
So a
Technically, we had a
PlayStation's-
Microsoft game and a PlayStation game in the same direct.
Yeah, what a world! What a time to live in! Like, Lego Horizon Adventures is coming to Nintendo Switch. Now, this was revealed at the Summer Games Fest, but it's awesome to see that Nintendo officially announces it coming to Switch, and that looks beautiful. In fact, I think it was last year, maybe the year before that, we got my sister-in-law the Lego set, the only Lego set that is Lego Horizon Zero Dawn. It's the long neck, I believe. I can't remember exactly what they called it, but we got that set, and so I'm sure this is right up my sister-in-law's alley. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. It's Lego.
Yeah, it looks cool.
And
Yeah,
Horizon.
it looks pretty, but I do have a PS5. I think I'll play the real version.
Speaking of PS5 and PlayStation, we have Stray coming to the Nintendo Switch. This is a port that everyone said was never going to happen, and here we are. It's here. We're getting Stray.
I wonder why I said it would never happen.
Just it was so graphically
Looks fine to me.
intent. No, it does show its port colors for sure. It's got the rough edges, but it's
it's up and
comparable.
running.
Like, it's up and running, and it
I didn't
works.
think it looked bad at all.
No,
And I played the PS5 version.
it is a game that you can experience, and you're not going to be disappointed
Yeah.
unless you've played like the better graphical version. Like, you're going to get that Stray experience, which is what people really want on the Switch, is the portable Stray experience.
Right.
If you want to be a cat and meow all day, you can do that. In a post-apocalyptic world, even better.
Even better.
Stray is definitely one I've heard a lot of people just absolutely loved it.
I may
just
get
because
it
you
for
can be
my
a cat.
wife. She loves
But,
cats, so.
But yeah, that's there's so many cat games, and this is the one that everyone talks about being like the game to get if you're a cat fan. So
Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game. I'll pass.
Tales of the Shire is straight up just farming simulator
You're just in Lord
and
of the Rings.
party throwing, decorating, meal planning, just in the Shire. As a hobbit.
Living life as a hobbit.
Adventuring business. Nothing that'll make you late for dinner. But that's what it is. It's a cozy game, and that's definitely something that I'm probably going to lose Draco to at least a year or two, probably.
There's a market for it. I don't know why, but there is.
Next one that was announced was a Capcom game coming out. It is the Ace Attorney Investigations Collection. If you like the Ace Attorney games, the courtroom and investigation and whodunit, solving the crimes and convicting the villain, that's the drama. The courtroom drama is all there in this collection. So I have some friends that are absolutely enamored with the series overall, and so that's really exciting to see that they're getting that content. And I think I'd like to highlight, many people of my friends said, "Oh, I'm really excited about this, and this," and then other people I'm excited about this, and this, and there was a lot of variety in this direct, and not that it was just variety, but it was big announcements for those things if you're a fan of those things.
Yeah.
So that was really, really cool. I don't know if you have anything to say about the Ace Attorney series.
nothing.
The next one is the 100 Line Last Defense Academy. It's kind of like a visual novel, but with grid-based combat.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen that.
It was weird. A school mascot shows up. It's kind of like a ghost with a floating brain and a weird hat.
I'm good.
It is an interesting art style. I was really intrigued. It kind of reminds me of almost like an Astral Chain kind of
which I like,
cell shaded look, but the gameplay didn't quite catch
you
me.
didn't like the gameplay.
So next one is Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seventh.
That's a remake of a game, right?
Yes. It's a turn-based battle game, strategy game, so probably like an RTS. Not really. I don't know if RTS is the right word for it.
Turn-based game.
But it's just that strategy game, kind of like a Fire Emblem or move on the grid system type battle, which is great. And the last thing that we have to talk about is the big one.
Care to do the honors?
Yes. So
What's it called?
it has come to my attention that Metroid Prime 4 does indeed exist, and
Yes.
Nintendo does have something to show for it, and it now has a name, an official name called Metroid Prime 4 Beyond.
Beyond. Okay.
beyond the original trilogy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we got a lot of thoughts about this, right?
Straight up, Stylix, Metroids. Like, it's a continuation of Metroid Prime Hunters. Not Metroid Prime Hunters. Metroid Prime Federation Force.
Which Hunters...
Yeah.
It's weird because Hunters, for you fans, if you don't know, Hunters came out on the DS as like a
That's where
tech
Stylix
demo.
came from.
Yeah, he's from there, and that was technically said it wasn't canon, a canon story, but he is from that game, so I don't know if Nintendo's trying to retcon it. Honestly, Ryan, I think it would be really smart if Nintendo remade that game for Switch 2.
You don't have to preach to me, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Multiplayer Metroid.
if
with
they made
those-
the one player, like the single player, a little bit more engaging and less like cookie cutter, do this thing over and over and over again, like and destroy the tower, just a little bit harder each time. Like,
It
sure,
would be cool to do that.
the
And a nice
multiplayer
surprise.
would be perfect. Like,
It would be, and it gets you into who is this character,
you know what?
and they should port Federation Force
Forget
to the
it.
Switch.
Forget about Hunters. You know, porting Hunters to Switch. As long as they bring the multiplayer and the characters from Hunters into Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and give us that multiplayer mode.
Yeah.
Like you know, Prime 2 Echoes had a multiplayer mode. Like, give us something that is the Hunters formula, and like just make it beautiful and functional and an awesome shooter like online. Like, I'm sold. Like, that's perfect.
Well, I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. I personally like the way they presented it. They presented it. They could have easily done this big, flashy 1 minute, 20-second trailer that was, looks like a movie, like Final Fantasy Rebirth, and just mind blowing. And people be like, "Wow!" And it has little footage that says not actual gameplay footage or whatever. They could have done that and then just said 2025, which would have been hype and cool. But I really love what they did. They didn't do that. They just showed you the gameplay. They showed you this is, I mean, yes, there's some motion, like, cutscenes, but they didn't dissect this for, like, a cutscene trailer. This was real gameplay, showing you what to expect, how this is going to feel a little bit. And then at the very end, they showed the vastness of the world. Like we've heard that this is going to be like an open world Metroid experience, and I mean, my gosh, it looks huge and it looks beautiful. It looks so beautiful.
I definitely felt like, in the past, Metroid Prime has had demos that you can play to experience the gameplay, and I feel like what they showed off was the demo. Like, eventually they're going to have a demo for this game that releases, and you can play the first, first part area or something, just like they've had in all the other Metroid Prime games. Like, I see that happening in this one. Like, we're getting, like, kind of a demo to get people into it, and that's basically what we saw there was, like, they have enough to give a working demo, an alpha version or whatever. That's just, I'm sure they've got a lot more, packed behind it, considering it comes out in 2025.
Yeah.
But I think that what we saw there is going to look a lot prettier once they have it finally, like, all polished up and put the final, like, textures and shading and everything. Even though, not to say it didn't look bad, it looked a lot like the HD, remakes of,
Prime.
of Prime, that we've seen.
Which
It
was
looks better than that, but still,
beautiful.
it didn't feel like super, like, top of the line graphics, like, PS5 or anything like that.
No.
And perhaps we may see some of that come through when it comes to the new, the backwards compatibility with the new Switch successor. So we might see that beauty shine through a little bit more. But this is an early version that we saw, and music sounds beautiful. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, loving that. Like,
But to be honest, Ryan, like I said at the top, my prediction was we would see this game, and it's going to say 2025. And I promise you, this is the Switch version. If you get the Switch, that's what it looks like. They're holding back the cards. Mark my words. A Switch 2 version of the game will look what you're saying. Like, it's going to look the next gen beyond a Switch, and I really believe that. And that's will be a selling point. You want the Switch version, or would you like to get the Switch 2 higher polished version of the game?
I mean, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, I mean, I will be
Even if
they could release this, they could have said this was coming out Christmas. I would have waited till the Switch 2 version came out, honestly. And as bad as I want to play it, I want the best experience of it.
it would be kind of cool if, in order to make it all work, like, they would give us, Metroid Prime 4 on Switch, but if you got the Switch 2 version, you get the multiplayer mode too, or something like that. But I'd want to see there be extra care put into give us a reason to upgrade to the new version, and it'd be beautiful. Like, I'm expecting, the upscaling to happen with the new Switch or the new successor. And so, like, I want to see what that looks like running on that, and that would be awesome if when they reveal the system, they show Metroid Prime 4 running on the system. That would be super awesome to see that as a seller. But
Definitely.
But yeah, it's great that we have more than just like a splash screen of the logo,
More than
without
just
even a name.
The teaser this time.
Yeah, so we are going beyond, and I cannot be more than happy.
It's about time. And ironically, that first
happier.
it's really funny because that first Nintendo Direct that happened for E3, that's when they announced Prime 4. It was the first time the Switch. I remember the hype for that because this was the first Switch Direct that we were having for E3. It was the one after Breath of the Wild year, and we saw this. It was hype. We were at my old house that I built, and we were all stoked. And then, delay, change of teams, and it's been 7 years, man, since then. And how ironic that they finally show it. Probably the last full-on Nintendo Direct of Switch coverage only. Mm-hmm. Isn't that funny? But overall, Ryan, I mean, final thoughts. What do you give out of 10? What do you think for this Direct?
Okay, out of 10, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. It wasn't going to be a top 10 for me, even though they did show Metroid Prime 4 stuff. Just because a lot of the stuff wasn't necessarily for me, but I was happy that the announcements they made were big announcements for everybody. And then, that surprise Denpa Men thing got me really excited to see that. And, the Dragon Quest is pretty cool as well. And the Mario Luigi makes me pretty happy to see that, too. Games that I would definitely play. Not ones that I'm, sold on, I have to get. And nothing immediate, but there's a couple there that, the one game that I was really excited for is a free-to-play. So,
yeah.
The one that I'm, most immediately excited for anyway. So, not a lot of things that I would want to buy, but I'm not going out there and buying a new system for Switch. I know I'm saving, to get the next Switch.
Right.
Or the next successor. So, I'm happy with that. But also I have lots of games to play and things I can pick up and ask for the holidays, to play. So, I'm not going to be wanting for anything. Through the end of the Switch's cycle. So
yeah, for me, having the Funko Pop game and the Looney Tunes game makes us a 10 out of 10. I mean, you can't have a better Direct than that. No, I'm just kidding. 8.5 is actually what I would give it to. But I think it's funny you said this wasn't like a top 10 for you, but I think this is probably one of the best Switch Nintendo Directs we've ever had, and it blew the doors off. I was expecting like a Star Fox Assault port, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes HD Shadow Drop. I was expecting stuff like that, and then the DLC updates, and to just kind of fill it out. And I was expecting maybe one game we didn't expect, like that Mario and Luigi game or the Zelda game, and a tease at Metroid. And I think they just threw so much more at us. I might not get Mario Party, but this honestly looks like to be the best Mario Party that they have on this system. And they've had in a long time, to be quite honest. So I think this was a great Direct. And there was a lot for a little bit of everybody. Again, Nintendo's been really good about that. JRPGs sell the best on Switch, so they're always there. And farming simulators do apparently too. So overall, it was great. They needed to end off with something big like Metroid Prime 4. I'm glad they did that. Now they could have had a different big game. If it would have been a freaking Fire Emblem game, I would have lost my crap. And then this would have tanked by a point or two in my book if that was Fire Emblem ending it off. But no, it was Metroid. I mean, how often are we getting a Direct, Ryan, where we get Donkey Kong, we get Metroid, and we get Zelda? Zelda in there. You don't get that very often. So
yeah,
it was cool. Rare's in there, Rareware games. It was good Direct, man. It was good overall. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they did a really, really great job.
Awesome. Well, guys, we know you've probably heard a ton of E3 coverage. Sorry, E3. I keep saying E3. the
What is this E3 you speak
the
of?
spirit of E3 lives on. It really does. But that's all from us today, and we'll be back next week with regular content. We'll talk to you later. See ya.